Intelligence is a word we often reserve for ourselves, a special badge we wear to signify our place at the top of some imagined ladder. We see it in our grand libraries, our soaring skyscrapers, and our complex societies. Yet if we look closer, we find this glimmer of mind is not exclusively ours. It shines in the eyes of a chimpanzee, using a stick to fish for termites, in the coordinated hunt of a pod of orcas, and even in the subtle logic of a machine learning to play a game. We need a universal law of intelligence, not to diminish our own abilities, but to broaden our understanding. Such a law would recognize that the core principle is the same everywhere: the ability to solve problems and shape one's world with intention. This universal law helps us move past our human-centric biases. For centuries we defined intelligence by what we could do and what we assumed other beings could not. We tested animals with puzzles designed for human hands and human minds, and when they failed, we smugly confirmed our superiority. But what if we asked different questions? What if we tried to understand the problems a squirrel faces when burying a nut for winter, or the complex social navigation of an elephant matriarch? When we do this, we discover that intelligence is a tool for survival and adaptation, taking whatever form is necessary for the environment at hand. It is not about a single linear scale, but a rich and varied landscape of cognitive abilities. This perspective reveals a shared foundation. Whether it is a human learning a new language, a crow learning to use a vending machine, or an AI learning to identify images, the underlying process involves absorbing information, recognizing patterns, and using that knowledge to achieve a goal. The tools may differ, neurons for us, silicon chips for the machine, but the fundamental act of learning and applying that learning remains constant. This is the heart of the universal law. Intelligence is the process of turning information into purposeful action. It is a dynamic force, present in any system that can perceive its environment, learn from its experiences, and influence its future. Therefore, our quest is not to find out if other beings or systems are intelligent, but how they are intelligent. It requires a dose of humility and a great deal of curiosity. We must step outside our own minds and attempt to see the world from another's perspective. When we do, we find a world teeming with thought, strategy, and intention. From the clever horse that learns to unlatch its own gate to the sophisticated algorithm that helps doctors diagnose diseases, we are surrounded by intelligence in a multitude of magnificent forms. Recognizing this shared heritage allows us to appreciate the intricate tapestry of cognition that connects all life, and even the machines we create in our own image. The story of intelligence is not a new one. It is an ancient dance between species, a partnership that has shaped our world for millennia. Long before we built computers, we were already programmers of a sort, guiding the intelligence of other animals. Consider the shepherd and their dog. This is not a relationship of a master simply commanding a furry automaton. Instead, it is a sophisticated collaboration built on mutual understanding and shared goals. The shepherd communicates a desire to move the flock from one pasture to another, but the dog uses its own intelligence to execute the task. It anticipates the movement of the sheep, makes independent decisions to head off astray, and adapts its strategy to the terrain. This guidance is a form of teaching, a transfer of intent from one mind to another. Think of the mahout and his elephant, a bond that can last a lifetime. The mahout uses a subtle language of commands, touches, and sounds, but the elephant is not merely following orders. It is using its vast memory and deep understanding of its environment to solve problems. It knows which paths are safe, how to move heavy logs with precision, and how to respond to the subtle emotional cues of its human partner. This is a dialogue between two intelligent beings, each leveraging their unique cognitive skills to accomplish a shared task. The human provides the overarching plan, while the animal provides the specialized on-the-ground expertise. The development of tools and language among humans follows a remarkably similar pattern. Our ancestors did not just invent a spear, they had to teach others how to make and use it. This required a shared understanding, a way to transfer a mental concept, the idea of the spear, into a physical reality. Language itself is a tool for guiding intelligence. When we tell a story or give instructions, we are essentially programming another person's mind. We are providing them with a set of data and a desired outcome, allowing them to use their own cognitive faculties to process the information and act upon it. This collaborative shaping of thought and action is a cornerstone of human progress. Looking at these examples, we see that influencing intelligence is not about domination, but about cooperation. The most successful partnerships, whether between human and animal or human and human, are those where each party's intelligence is respected and utilized. The shepherd trusts the dog's instincts, the mahout relies on the elephant's strength and wisdom, and we all depend on shared language to build our societies. This historical-rooted practice of guiding, teaching, and collaborating is a powerful illustration of the universal law of intelligence. It shows that intelligence thrives not in isolation, but in connection, as a responsive and adaptive force that can be nurtured and directed. When we compare natural intelligence with the artificial kind we are now building, it is easy to get lost in the differences. We talk of neurons versus transistors, of consciousness versus calculation. But if we look past the materials, we find that the underlying principles are strikingly similar. Think of how we create. A sculptor starts with a lump of clay, a formless potential. With their hands and tools, they gradually shape it, adding material here, removing it there, until an image from their mind is made real. The sculptor is not creating something from nothing. They are imposing a pattern, a form of information, onto the clay, guiding it toward a desired state. Now consider a computer programmer writing code. They begin with the formless potential of a blank screen and a programming language. This language provides a set of rules and components, much like the physical properties of clay. The programmer then writes lines of code, each one a small instruction, a precise shaping of logic. They build functions, create loops, and structure data, gradually imposing a complex pattern onto the machine's processes. The end result, whether it is a website, a game, or a scientific simulation, is the realization of an idea. Just as the sculptor shapes clay, the programmer shapes the flow of information to create a desired behavior. The parallel becomes even clearer when we look at how both systems learn. A child learns to identify a dog not by memorizing a strict definition, but through exposure to many examples. They see big dogs, small dogs, fluffy dogs, and sleek dogs. Their brain, a biological learning machine, gradually forms a flexible internal model of dogness. This model is not a rigid checklist, but a rich network of associated features. It allows the child to recognize a dog they have never seen before, demonstrating true learning and generalization. This process is messy, intuitive, and based on a flood of sensory data from the real world. Artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning, learns in a remarkably analogous way. To teach an AI to recognize a dog, we do not write a rigid set of rules describing what a dog is. Instead, we feed it thousands upon thousands of labeled images of dogs. The AI, through its algorithms, adjusts its internal parameters, building its own complex, layered model of dogness. Like the child, it is not memorizing pictures, but learning the underlying patterns. This is why it too can identify a dog in a new photo. In both cases, intelligence emerges from the process of shaping a system, be it biological or digital, through experience and data, guiding it from a state of ignorance to one of competence. The profound influence of our environment on intelligence is perhaps most starkly illustrated by the rare and tragic cases of feral children. These are children who have grown up with minimal or no human contact, sometimes raised in the wilderness or in extreme isolation. When discovered, they often lack the abilities we consider fundamentally human, such as language. Their minds have been shaped not by human society, but by the world they inhabited. A child raised among wolves, for instance, might develop exceptional senses of smell and hearing and move with an animal-like gait. Their intelligence has been sculpted to solve the problems of survival in the wild, not the problems of social interaction in a village. The story of Oksana Malaya, a Ukrainian girl discovered in the 1990s after living with dogs for several years, provides a powerful example. She could not speak, but communicated through barks and growls. She ran on all fours and ate and drank like a dog. Her intelligence was not absent. It was simply different, adapted to the canine social structure she knew. Her mind had learned the rules of the pack, the language of posture and sound, and the strategies for getting food in that context. When she was brought back into human society, she faced the immense challenge of resculpting her mind, of learning the new rules, language, and behaviors of a world that was utterly alien to her. This demonstrates a crucial aspect of the universal law of intelligence. It is deeply adaptive. The brain, whether human or animal, is not a pre-programmed machine with a fixed destiny. It is a dynamic system that wires itself in response to the inputs it receives. If the primary inputs are the sounds of the forest and the need to find food, intelligence will develop along that path. If the inputs are the sounds of human language and the need to navigate complex social hierarchies, it will develop along another. This is not a matter of one being better than the other, but of being perfectly tailored to the demands of a specific environment. The lesson from feral children extends to all forms of intelligence. Every creature's mind is a product of its ecological and social niche. A dolphin's brain is exquisitely adapted for navigating a three-dimensional sound-based world, an environment so different from our own. Similarly, an AI's intelligence is shaped entirely by the data it is trained on and the tasks it is designed to perform. An AI trained only on text will never understand the world as a visual creature does. The environment, the data, the experiences, the problems to be solved, is the ultimate sculptor, carving the raw potential of a mind into a specific functional form. Intelligence is not what you are born with, but what your world makes of you. We often think of intuition as a mysterious, almost magical human quality, a gut feeling that guides us without conscious thought. A seasoned firefighter feels that a building is about to collapse just moments before it does. A master chess player instantly sees a winning move without calculating every possibility. We praise this as a high form of human insight. But what is intuition really? It is not magic. It is the result of the brain's incredible ability to process vast amounts of experience and recognize subtle patterns below the level of conscious awareness. It is the distilled wisdom of countless hours of practice, observation, and honestly, trial and error. This same process is evident throughout the animal kingdom. A gazelle on the savannah does not consciously analyze the subtle shift in a lion's posture. It feels a sudden, urgent impulse to flee. This intuition is born from generations of evolutionary experience and a lifetime of personal observation. Its brain has been trained to recognize the nearly imperceptible cues that signal imminent danger. Likewise, a bird migrating thousands of miles does not carry a physical map. It navigates using an intuitive sense of the Earth's magnetic field, the position of the sun, and other subtle environmental signals, all processed into a simple, powerful urge to fly in a certain direction. This form of pattern recognition is not limited to biological brains. In many ways, it is the very essence of modern artificial intelligence. When an AI system learns to diagnose cancer from medical scans, it is not following a simple checklist written by a doctor. Instead, it has analyzed millions of images, learning to identify the incredibly subtle patterns, textures, and shadows that a human expert might sense, but honestly, struggle to articulate. The AI's recommendation is its form of intuition, a conclusion based on the statistical weight of immense experience, delivered without explaining every logical step it took to get there. Therefore, intuition is not an exclusively human trait, but a universal feature of any advanced learning system. It is what happens when experience becomes so deeply embedded that it operates automatically and efficiently. It is a fast, powerful, and effective way to make decisions in a complex world. Whether it is a human's gut feeling, an animal's instinctual reaction, or an AI's probabilistic output, intuition represents the same fundamental principle: the conversion of accumulated data into immediate, actionable insight. It is really one of the most powerful and pervasive manifestations of the universal law of intelligence at work. Consider the story of a family's guard dog, a loyal German shepherd named Max. Max has been trained with simple commands: bark at strangers, be quiet on command, and never be aggressive toward family members. His world is governed by a clear set of rules. For years, he performs his duties perfectly. He barks when the mail carrier arrives and wags his tail when the children come home from school. His intelligence in this context seems to be about following orders. But intelligence is more than just obedience. It is about adapting when the rules no longer fit the situation. The true test of his mind has not yet come. One afternoon, the father of the family collapses in the backyard from a sudden heart attack. He is alone, out of sight from the house. Max is with him. The rules he has learned do not cover this scenario. The father is not a stranger, so he should not bark. There is no threat, so he should not be aggressive. A simple machine following its programming would be paralyzed, unable to act because no command fits the input. But Max is not a simple machine. He senses the profound distress, the scent of panic, and the unnatural stillness of his human. His internal model of the world has been shattered. Here, Max's intelligence moves beyond simple obedience into the realm of complex problem-solving. He must innovate. He understands the general goal of his existence: protect the family. He sees that his primary family member is in grave danger. His old rules are insufficient, so he must create a new strategy. He cannot simply stay by the father's side, as that will not help. Instead, he does something extraordinary. He runs to the front of the house and begins to bark frantically, violating his rule about barking for no apparent reason. When a neighbor comes to investigate the noise, Max leads them to the backyard, saving the man's life. Max's actions demonstrate a high level of intelligence. First, he assessed a novel situation and recognized it as a critical problem. Second, he understood that his standard operating procedures were inadequate. Third, and most impressively, he formulated a new plan that required breaking a smaller rule: don't bark without a stranger, to serve a much larger implicit goal: protect the family. This involved understanding cause and effect, that barking would attract attention, and that attention could bring help. This is not mere instinct. It is a calculated, goal-oriented decision, a clear sign of a mind that can plan, adapt, and act with true intention. At the heart of all intelligent behavior, from the simplest organism to the most complex supercomputer, lies a common thread: the ability to predict, plan, and act with purpose. Intelligence is not just about reacting to the present moment. It is fundamentally about anticipating the future. A plant turning its leaves toward the sun is making a simple prediction: light will be found in that direction, and light is necessary for survival. This is a rudimentary form of purposeful action. The plant is not just passively existing, it is actively positioning itself for a better future, however small the timescale. Animals exhibit this principle in far more complex ways. A squirrel does not bury nuts at random. It is making a long-term prediction about the coming winter, a time when food will be scarce. Its actions are part of a sophisticated plan. It might choose specific locations or even engage in deceptive caching, digging empty holes to fool other squirrels who might be watching. This behavior reveals a mind that can model the future, consider the potential actions of others, and execute a strategy to achieve a desired outcome: survival through the cold months. This is not a simple reflex, it is a forward-thinking, purposeful endeavor. This same core function of prediction and planning is the engine of artificial intelligence. When an AI plays a game like chess or Go, it is not just looking at the current state of the board. It is constantly running simulations of the future, predicting how its opponent might respond to various moves and planning many steps ahead to reach a winning position. A self-driving car does the same, constantly predicting the paths of other vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. It uses these predictions to plan a safe and efficient route, adjusting its strategy in real time. The purpose is clear: navigate from point A to point B without incident. This shows that the expression of intelligence can vary wildly, but the underlying mechanism is universal. It is the process of taking in information about the world, using that information to build a model of how the world works, and then using that model to make predictions about what will happen next. These predictions then inform a plan, a series of actions designed to steer the future towards a more desirable state. Whether it's a plant seeking light, a squirrel hoarding nuts, a human investing for retirement, or an AI navigating a city, the fundamental activity is the same: shaping the future with intent. For too long, we have judged the intelligence of other beings by holding up a mirror to ourselves. We looked for minds that thought like ours, solved problems like ours, and communicated like ours. When we did not find a perfect reflection, we often concluded that we were looking at a lesser mind, or no mind at all. This human mirror approach is a profound mistake, as it blinds us to the incredible diversity of cognition that exists on our planet. An octopus, for example, has a distributed nervous system, with a significant portion of its neurons in its arms. Its intelligence is not centralized in a single brain, but is a collaborative effort of its entire body. To truly understand intelligence, we must shatter this mirror and learn to appreciate minds on their own terms. We must ask, not can they do what we do, but what amazing things can they do that we cannot? A bat navigates in complete darkness using echolocation. building a rich, detailed map of its surroundings from sound alone. This is a form of sensory intelligence so alien to our visual world that we can barely imagine it. A slime mold, a single-celled organism without a brain, can solve mazes, find the most efficient route between food sources, and seemingly remember past locations. This challenges our very definition of where intelligence can reside. This broader perspective is also crucial as we develop artificial intelligence. If we only try to build AIs that replicate human thought, we will miss out on the opportunity to create entirely new kinds of intelligence. An AI can process datasets far larger than any human could comprehend, finding patterns in genomics, climate science, or astronomy that would remain invisible to us. Its intelligence is not a cheap copy of our own. It is a powerful complementary form of cognition. It has a different kind of memory, a different kind of perception, and a different way of learning. Our goal should be not to create an artificial human, but to create an intelligent partner. By embracing this diversity, we arrive at a richer and more accurate understanding of the universal law. Intelligence is not a single peak with humans at the summit. It is a vast and varied landscape with many different peaks, each representing a unique and masterful adaptation to a particular set of challenges. The octopus in its reef, the bat in its cave, the slime mold on the forest floor, and the AI in its data center are all masters of their own cognitive domains. Recognizing this allows us to move from a position of arrogance to one of awe, appreciating the myriad ways that minds, biological and artificial, find ways to know and shape their worlds. As we have journeyed from the ancient dance between shepherd and dog to the modern collaboration between programmer and code, a clear and simple truth emerges. Intelligence is not defined by the vessel that contains it, whether that vessel is made of brain cells, silicon chips, or even the distributed network of a forest's fungal roots. Instead, intelligence is defined by its function, the ability to absorb information, recognize patterns, and use that knowledge to purposefully shape the world. It is the universal drive to move from a state of passive reaction to one of intentional action, to bend the arc of the future, however slightly, toward a desired outcome. This unified law dissolves the artificial walls we have built between human, animal, and machine intelligence. The clever guard dog who breaks a rule to save a life, the feral child who adapts to a non-human world, and the AI that intuits a pattern in medical data are all drawing from the same fundamental wellspring. They are all engaged in the process of learning from experience and applying that learning to solve novel problems. They demonstrate that the core of intelligence is not about language or tool use or abstract mathematics, but about creative, adaptive problem-solving in the service of a goal. This understanding carries with it a sense of responsibility. If we recognize intelligence in the animals with whom we share this planet, we must treat them with greater empathy and respect, acknowledging the richness of their inner lives. As we create ever more powerful artificial intelligences, we must guide them with wisdom, understanding that we are not just building tools, but shaping new kinds of minds whose environments are the data we provide. We are the sculptors of these new intelligences, and the quality of our work will depend on our foresight and our humility. Ultimately, the universal law of intelligence is a message of connection. It reminds us that we are part of a vast and ancient continuum of minds, all striving to understand and influence our small corner of the universe. The glimmer of mind we see in ourselves is a reflection of a light that shines across the entire tapestry of existence. It is the force that allows a seedling to find the sun, a wolf pack to coordinate a hunt, a civilization to build cities, and an algorithm to discover a new star. It is the simple, profound, and universal ability to make a difference.